There is a moment between lives that almost no one talks about. A moment when you are offered a choice, and according to texts buried for nearly 2,000 years, most of us say yes without knowing what we agreed to. The Nag Hammadi library, discovered in 1945 in the Egyptian desert, contains something unexpected. Not rules, not prayers, but warnings. Warnings about a system that depends on your return. A system that needs you to forget who you are, again and again. You have felt it before, that strange sense that you are living someone else's life, that the world is designed to keep you distracted, exhausted, running in circles, that no matter how much you achieve, there is always something missing, something you cannot name. The Gnostic texts say this is not an accident. They say you are inside a cycle, and the cycle has architects. But here is what makes these texts dangerous. They do not ask you to believe, they ask you to remember. They suggest that before you were born, you knew something, and the moment you arrived here, that knowing was taken from you. Not by force, by agreement. Think about the last time you made a major decision under pressure. When someone presented you with limited options, and you chose the one that seemed least painful. When you said yes, because saying no felt impossible. When you agreed to something you did not fully understand, because the alternative was presented as worse. Now imagine that same dynamic at the threshold of existence itself, when you are raw, disoriented, desperate for resolution. When beings of apparent authority tell you what you need to do, when the pain of what you left unfinished is so overwhelming that another chance seems like the only answer. The Gnostics say this is how the cycle perpetuates, not through force, through exhaustion, through the manipulation of your own goodness, your own desire to make things right. The question is not whether reincarnation is real. The question is, what happens if you see the choice clearly for the first time and you say no? In the Gnostic view, death is not an ending. It is a threshold, and at that threshold, you meet something, not a judge, not a divine being offering rest, but a presence that speaks with absolute authority, a presence that knows exactly what to say to make you return. The texts call them Archons, not demons, not gods, architects of repetition. They do not punish you, they do not need to. They simply remind you of everything you left unfinished, every regret, every person you hurt, every potential you failed to reach, and then they offer you another chance. It sounds compassionate. It sounds like grace. But the Gnostics saw it differently. They saw it as a trap disguised as mercy, because the new life does not free you. It resets you. You forget what you learned. You forget what you realized. You start again, blind, in a world designed to keep you blind. You already know this feeling. You have experienced it in smaller ways. Every time you promise yourself you will change, and then you do not. Every time you see a pattern clearly, and then fall back into it. Every time you feel like you are waking up, only to realize you are still dreaming. The Archons do not rule through fear, they rule through forgetfulness, and the most effective prison is the one you do not know you are in. Consider how easily you forget your dreams, how quickly the resolution you felt last night dissolves in the morning, how the clarity you had during meditation fades the moment you step back into your routine. This is not weakness, this is design. The world is structured to interrupt remembering. And the between space, the Gnostics warn, operates on the same principle but with far greater intensity. Everything there is designed to make you forget what you knew before you died. Every vision, every voice, every emotional pull is calibrated to move you toward agreement, toward return. But what if in that moment between lives you remembered? What if you saw the mechanism clearly? What if you recognized the voices for what they are? The Gnostic texts describe the journey after death with strange precision. You rise through layers, through spheres, and at each level something asks for payment. Not money, not devotion, identity. You are asked to surrender your name, your memories, your sense of self. Piece by piece you are stripped down, and the promise is always the same. Let go, and you will be free. Let go, and you will return to the source. But the texts warn that this is a deception, that the source they speak of is not the true origin. It is another layer of the system, a place that feels like home, but is still inside the maze. Think of it like this. You spend your life trying to escape suffering. You meditate, you heal, you forgive, and eventually you feel lighter. You feel like you are dissolving into something greater. Peace, oneness, light. And the Gnostics say, be careful, because that light might not be what you think it is. They are not denying spiritual experience. They are questioning who benefits from your surrender. They are asking, if you dissolve completely, who remains to choose? If you forget everything, how will you know whether you are free or simply compliant? This is the edge most teachings will not touch. The possibility that enlightenment itself can be weaponized, that the desire to escape the self can be used to recycle the self, that the very practices meant to liberate you can become the mechanism of your return. You have seen this in smaller ways, how self-improvement can become an endless loop, how healing one wound reveals another, how every level of awareness shows you a deeper layer of unconsciousness. The spiritual path, as it is commonly taught, has no endpoint. There is always more to learn, more to release, more to integrate. And the Gnostics suggest this is intentional, that the path is designed to keep you walking, that the promise of eventual liberation is what prevents you from claiming freedom now. So what does refusal look like? What happens when you stop seeking and start seeing? There is a text called the Testimony of Truth. In it, the serpent in Eden is not a deceiver. The serpent is the one who tells the truth, the one who says, you do not have to obey. You do not have to stay small. The God who forbids the fruit is not the ultimate creator. He is a guardian of limitation. And the act of eating is not a fall. It is an awakening. This inverts everything. It suggests that what you were taught to fear is actually what you need. That the voice inside you that questions authority, that refuses to bow, that insists something is wrong here, is not rebellion. It is memory. The Gnostics believed you carry a spark, a fragment of the true source, and that spark does not belong to this world. It was placed here, or trapped here, or volunteered to come here. The details vary, but the core idea remains: you are not from here, and you know it. That is why you feel alien. That is why you look around and think, this cannot be all there is. That is why nothing quite satisfies. That is why even your greatest achievements feel hollow after a while. That is why you are reading these words right now, searching for something you cannot name. The system depends on you doubting that instinct. It depends on you thinking you are broken, lost, unworthy, incomplete. Because the moment you trust the spark, you stop negotiating with the Archons. You stop asking them for permission to exist. You stop waiting for external validation to confirm what you already know. But here is where it gets complex. The spark is not your personality. It is not your thoughts. It is not even your awareness as you currently experience it. Those are all constructs that formed after you arrived. The spark is what remains when all of that is stripped away. And this is why refusal is not simple. It requires something most people are not prepared to hold. It requires you to distinguish between what you are and what you have become, between your essence and your adaptation, between the truth of you and the story of you. What happens when that distinction becomes clear? To refuse reincarnation, according to these texts, you must remain conscious through the dissolution. You must hold your awareness intact while everything around you tries to seduce you into letting go. This is not about being stubborn. It is about being awake in a place designed to make you sleep. The between space is described as overwhelming, filled with voices, visions, memories, beings who appear as loved ones, guides, angels, all offering comfort, all inviting you to follow. And the test is simple. Can you stay with yourself? Can you remain centered while the entire architecture of meaning tries to pull you into its current? Most cannot, and the texts do not judge this. They simply observe it. The pull is ancient. The mechanisms are sophisticated. The voices know your wounds, they know what you long for, and they offer it to you wrapped in light. You will see your mother, your child, your beloved, and they will say, come back, we need you, you cannot leave us like this. And your heart will break because you love them, because you do want to help, because leaving feels like abandonment. This is the deepest hook, not fear, love. The Archons use your compassion against you. They use your sense of responsibility. They use your unfinished business. They show you everyone you hurt and ask, will you not make it right? They show you everyone who suffers and ask, will you not return to help? And if you say yes, if you agree to come back for them, you forget why you came, you forget them, you forget everything, and you start again, in a new body, in a new story, with new wounds and new people to save. The cycle continues, but here is the deeper layer. The reason this is so difficult is not because you are weak. It is because you are genuinely good. You want to help. You want to fix what you broke. You want to be with the people you loved. You want another chance to get it right. And the Gnostics say, this goodness is your chain. True compassion does not require your imprisonment. True love does not demand your return. So what does it demand? The Gnostics called it Gnosis, direct knowing, not belief, not faith, not information, an interior recognition that changes everything. And they were very clear it cannot be given to you. You cannot earn it. You can only remember it. This is why the texts are so frustrating to read. They circle around the truth. They use paradox, symbol, reversal, because they are not trying to inform you. They are trying to trigger something already inside you. They are not teaching you something new. They are pointing to something old, something you knew before you learned to think. You are reading this now and part of you recognizes it. Not because it is new, because it is old. Older than your current life. Older than your name. Older than the voice you think with. But recognition is not enough. You can see the pattern and still participate in it. You can understand the cycle and still choose to return. Because understanding is not the same as embodying. Knowledge is not the same as knowing. The Archons do not fear your information. They fear your sovereignty. They fear the moment you stop seeking their approval, the moment you stop waiting to be saved, the moment you realize you are not lost, the moment you understand that the search itself is the distraction. And that moment does not feel like victory. It feels like standing alone in an infinite space with no one to tell you what to do. No script, no path, no guarantee, no reward, just the simple fact of being, without justification. Most people, when they reach that edge, step back. They choose the familiar prison over the unknown freedom. They choose meaning over truth. They choose the comfort of struggle over the terror of stillness. And the texts say this is understandable. This is human. The system was designed to make this choice feel impossible, to make freedom feel like death, to make sovereignty feel like loneliness, to make truth feel like madness. But some do not step back. Some stand at the edge and do not blink. What do they see? There are hints scattered through the texts of those who refused, not many, but enough to suggest it is possible. They are not praised. They are not made into heroes. They are simply described as having passed beyond the sphere of return. What happens to them? The texts do not say. Or maybe they cannot say, because language itself is part of the system. Every word you use was designed within this reality. How do you describe what exists outside the boundary of describable things? But there are clues. The texts speak of the pleroma, the fullness, not a place, not a state, an original condition that has no lack, no division, no need for experience, a reality that does not operate on time, separation, or becoming. And they say that to enter it, you must become unrecognizable to the powers that govern this realm. You must shed every identity they gave you, every role, every story, every claim to knowledge, every attachment to memory. You must become so simple, so still, so absent of hooks that there is nothing for them to grab onto. This is not death. This is what comes after you stop dying. Think about what you cling to when you are afraid. Your name, your history, your relationships, your beliefs, your sense of who you are. These are anchors, and anchors work both ways. They keep you grounded, yes, but they also keep you bound. The Gnostics suggest that the between space tests every anchor. Every identity is challenged. Every belief is questioned. Every relationship is shown to be temporary. And most people, when they see this, panic. They reach for anything solid, any story, any role, any promise of continuity, and the moment they grab on, they are back in the stream. But if you can let every anchor go, if you can remain yourself without any of the things that define you, if you can be no one and nothing and still be, then there is nothing to reincarnate, no self to send back, no story to continue. And here is the difficult part. You cannot practice this, you cannot rehearse it, you cannot do it while you are still here, in a body, in time. because the shedding is not metaphorical, it is actual, and the moment of refusal is singular. But what can you do now? The reason reincarnation is so appealing is because it gives suffering a purpose. It says, you are here to learn, to grow, to evolve. Every pain is a lesson. Every loss is a catalyst. Nothing is wasted. Your trauma is your teacher. Your struggle is your path. This is beautiful. It makes everything bearable. It turns victims into students. It turns chaos into curriculum. And the Gnostics would say, it is also a perfect trap. Because as long as suffering has meaning, you will accept it. You will even seek it out. You will say, I chose this. I needed this. This is my karma. This is my growth. This is what I came here to experience. And the cycle continues. You suffer, you learn, you die. You forget, you return, you suffer again. Each time believing it is progress. Each time thinking this is the life where you finally get it right. The text suggests something more unsettling. That suffering does not need to mean anything, that it is simply a byproduct of being locked in a system of time, matter, and separation. That the meaning you assign to it is what keeps you returning to experience it again. This does not make your pain less real. It makes it less sacred. And there is freedom in that, because if your suffering is not a test, you do not have to pass it. If it is not a lesson, you do not have to learn it. You can simply see it for what it is and choose to stop participating. But this breaks something in most people. The idea that there is no grand design, no cosmic justice, no balancing of scales, no soul contracts, no karmic debts, just a system that runs on consent and forgetfulness. A system that needs you to believe your pain matters, so you will agree to return and experience more of it. And the Archons do not need to force you. They do not need to threaten you. They just need to convince you that staying is noble, that returning is growth, that choosing freedom is selfish, that refusing the cycle is abandoning your purpose. So what happens to purpose when you refuse? The moment you refuse, something in the structure begins to collapse. Not the external world, not the system itself, the internal agreement. The part of you that believed you needed permission, the part that thought you were incomplete, the part that waited for rescue, the part that needed to be special. That part dies, and it does not die peacefully. The text described this as a confrontation, not with beings outside you, with your own reflection, every version of yourself that wanted to be seen, every identity that needed validation, every fear that pretended to protect you, every wound that demanded to be healed, every story that promised meaning. They all rise up, and they ask you the same question: who are you without us? What remains when we are gone? What will you be if you are not this person, with this history, with these struggles, with this purpose? And if you cannot answer, you return. You reach for a story. You grab onto a role. You say, I am this, I am that, I am a healer, I am a teacher, I am wounded, I am wise, I am special, I am chosen. And the moment you claim an identity, the cycle has you again. Because identity requires experience. Experience requires time. Time requires incarnation. But if you can sit in that question without reaching, if you can endure being no one, if you can let every version of yourself dissolve without grasping for a replacement, then the structure has nothing to bind you with. This is not enlightenment. Enlightenment still happens within the game. It is still an identity, still a story, still something you become. This is refusal to play, and the difference is subtle but absolute. You do not transcend suffering. You stop agreeing that suffering is necessary. You do not become love. You stop believing love requires your sacrifice. You do not find peace. You stop fighting the war. You do not dissolve into oneness. You realize you were never separate, and the Archons, the texts say, cannot follow you there, because they are made of roles, of functions, of needs. They are the wardens of identity. And where you are going, identity does not exist. But there is a final threshold, and it is the hardest one. The Nag Hammadi texts do not tell you what to do. They do not promise salvation. They do not even promise that refusal is better. They simply say, you have a choice. And most beings do not know they have it. You are reading this, and something in you is stirring, not belief, recognition. You have always known something was wrong here. You have always felt the edges of the cage. You have always suspected that the answer is not more experience, but less agreement. You have always wondered why freedom feels so close and yet remains just out of reach. And now you know the name of the game. Reincarnation is not punishment, it is persuasion. The Archons are not evil, they are efficient. The system is not broken, it is working exactly as designed. And your participation is entirely voluntary. The only question is, will you continue to consent? Not later. Not after you have learned enough, healed enough, grown enough, proven enough. Now, in this moment, in this breath. Because the choice is not made once, at death. It is made every time you decide who you are. Every time you claim a wound. Every time you repeat a pattern. Every time you say, I will do better next time. You are agreeing to return. And maybe that is fine. Maybe you are not done. Maybe you want to stay. Maybe you have people to love, work to finish, experiences to complete. The texts do not judge that. They do not say one choice is right and another wrong, but they do ask you to see it clearly, to stop calling the prison a school, to stop calling the Archons teachers, to stop calling your chains a path, to stop pretending you do not have the key. You have always had it. You just forgot it was in your hand. And the forgetting was never an accident. It was the agreement, the one you made before you arrived, the one you will be asked to make again, unless you remember, unless you see, unless you refuse. The silence after that choice is not empty. It is full of everything you actually are.